Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Happy New Year. New Year. Happy New Year. Once again, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Ruja, Kushi. So we have completed that right for Shashank. A part of this. We'll write about this and we'll parallelly discuss about it. So nothing much about Mahalwari. Most important are permanent settlement and Ryotwari. So Mahalwari is like in Mahalwari, what they happened in permanent settlement system, they made jamindars as the rent collectors from the peasants, whereas in Ryotwari they collected peasant directly by themselves from the peasants, whereas in Mahalwari, so the entire entire area is considered to be estates, which we call it as mahals, and they fixed revenue for entire mahal, and they recognized community ownership rights. In permanent settlement, they recognized ownership rights of zamindar. In Ryotwari, they recognized ownership rights to peasants. Here, they recognized ownership rights of community as a whole. Thank you. Because it is like traditional Indian setup where there was a concept that entire land belongs to entire community. So here the ownership rights are recognized with community. Now it is the responsibility of community to collect the or pay the rent to the British. Okay. So and within the community, whoever cultivates this land, the rent was shared among these peasants according to the field or the area of farm they cultivate. Simple. Okay. Which was introduced in Northwest Indian province and Punjab initially, later extended to United Province, Central Province, and all. Okay. Right. So that is Mahalwari. In permanent settlement system, who they have given ownership rights to whom? Zamindars. In Ryotwari, peasants. In Mahalwari, community. So community as a whole was recognized as owner of the land, and they recognize that land belongs to entire community. So it is a responsibility of entire community to collect and pay the rent to the British. Okay, not single person. The community obviously generally it was the responsibility was taken by village headman. So village headman distributed the entire revenue among the all peasants and collected it as a whole and submitted to the British company. Okay, so write down Mahalwari system. Mahalwari system. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Nitya. Mahalwari system was introduced introduced in Northwest Frontier Province, Punjab, United Provinces, Central Provinces, etc. It was first experimented in Awadh in 1801. Awadh in 1801, and later in Maratha territories from 1804. Okay. Features. The entire village or estate or mahal is taken as unit for revenue settlement. Next. Under a less time period only. But not developed by him. No, he was the Governor General. But Ryotwari was mostly developed under Alexander Reed and later under Munro. Similarly, it was developed under your company official hold Mackenzie. What you written? Unit for revenue settlement. Next point. The village land belongs jointly to the village community jointly to the village community called as body of co-shares. Called as the body of co-shares. Body of co-shares means the entire village people. Okay. The body of co-shares. Next point. The body of co-shares are jointly responsible for payment of land revenue, along with individual responsibility. Individual. For suppose, see, let us say we are all members of the village, and we hold the entire village land as a community. So the British government will fix the revenue for entire village or mahal. So let us say we are a body of co-sharers. So we all co-share this land. So you cultivate some piece of land, I cultivate some piece of land. So not only as a whole we have responsibility, but individually I have a responsibility to contribute my share. Got it? So that's the point. Along with individual responsibility. Next, if any co-sharer abandons his land, abandon, abandon, abandon his land, then it is taken over by, village community as a whole. Taken over by village community as a whole. Next, the village community. Next point. The village community is the owner of village common land. Village common land. That means community ownership rights. Next, so these are the features. Next, continue. It was devised by, or it was devised or prepared by Fort Mackenzie in 1819. 1819, 19. Fort Mackenzie was secretary of Board of Commissioners, secretary of Board of Control. Okay. It was prepared by Fort Mackenzie in 1819. Hmm. First, it was implemented in Awadh, but it was Mahalwari system, which we are talking about, that was completely devised by Fort Mackenzie. Initially, it was experimented there in Awadh. So, but it was likewise, Ryotwari, though it was on full scale implemented from 1801, but it actually experimented in 1792. Similarly, though it was completely prepared in 1819, but it was also some kind of village community ownership style of revenue collection was experimented in Awadh in 1801 itself. Okay. Hmm. Holt Mackenzie in 1819. According to Holt Mackenzie, according to Holt Mackenzie's plan, Holt Mackenzie's plan, he emphasized on, he emphasized on existence of village communities in North India. Existence of village communities in Northern India. He recommended survey of land, survey of land, preparation of record of rights in the land, record of rights in the land. Record of rights means like recognizing the community ownership rights. Record of rights in the land, comma, settlement of land revenue demand on each mahal, settlement of land revenue demand for each mahal, and last one is collection of Land revenue through village headman. Okay. On the basis of this, Mahalwari system was introduced in Northwest Frontier Province in 1822. Okay. So, which point, Aditya? I'm repeating the previous point. He recommended survey of land, comma, preparation of record of rights in the land, preparation of record of rights in the land, settlement of land revenue demand for each mahal, settlement of land revenue demand for each mahal, and collection of land revenue through village headman. And collection of land revenue through village headman. Okay. It was introduced in Northwestern Frontier Province, NWFP, in 1822. Okay. Right. In 1833, it was modified in 1830. It was modified by William Bentinck. By Regulation 9th of 1833. By Regulation 9 of 1833, based on R.M. Bird's plan. It provided for detailed survey of entire mahal based on it provided for detailed survey of entire mahal based on net value of potential produce of the field, It introduced fixing rents for average rents for different types of soils, fixing average rents for different types of soils. Field maps and field registers were used for first time. Assessment was made for 30 years. Next point. Assessment was made for 30 years. That means revised after 30 years. So this is about the Mahalwari system. Okay. Demerits. The revenue burden was, the revenue demand was very high. The village communities, next point, suffered from debt burden, suffered from debt burden, debt, DEBT, debt burden. In many cases, land was passed into hands of money lenders. Non-payment resulted in non-payment resulted in sale of properties and dispossession, sale of properties and dispossession through civil courts. So this is about the Mahalwari settlement system. We have few more actually, like these are three major ones, but we have uh, Talukdari system and Malguzari systems. So these are in few areas, these type of systems were also existing. First write down Malguzari system. Similar to Zamindari system only, especially it was introduced in central India uh, in 1860s, actually 1863, where these Malguzars is a community in central India who were traditionally revenue collectors. So the British have made settlement with those revenue collectors, that is Malguzarism. So that's why it was called as Malguzari system. It was introduced in central provinces. It was introduced in central provinces in 1863. Malguzars were Malguzars were Traditional land revenue collectors in central India. Traditional land revenue collectors in central India. They were given property rights, sorry, proprietary rights. Proprietary. PRO. PRE. PRIE. Yes. PRO. PRIE. TORY. TO, no? TO only. You check it. PRO, PRIE, TORY or TRY. Proprietary rights. Settlement was made with next Malguzars. Settlement was made with Malguzars. Rent was fixed at 50%. Settlement was made for 30 years. For 30 years. So it was prepared by Richard Temple. Okay. Next one, Talukdari system. Talukdari system. Introduced in Awadh in 1860. Sixty. Same point. Settlement was made with Talukdars. Talukdars were given, were made as, so were given proprietary rights. So instead of Malguzars, you can write Talukdars for same points. Here also settlement was made for 30 years. Done. So tell me, we have seen these three types of revenue settlements, no? So what's the overall impact of these land revenue systems introduced by the British in India? Amit? Overall impact, obviously negative impact only. Famines. Different, nothing difference. Both are having same common features, Kushi, but different regions. It was introduced in different regions, called with different names. Malguzars were also a class of traditional revenue collectors. Talukdars also class of traditional revenue collectors. So that's why they have made settlement with them. Regions also. One is in central provinces, one is in United Provinces. Peasant exploitation. Agriculture land got deteriorated. Hmm. Hmm. High tax rates led to tax burden. Hmm. Farmers are or peasants are left with very less incentive to develop agriculture. This led to impoverishment of peasants. In many cases, peasants had to rely on money lenders for payment of rent to the British. So that pushed them into debt trap. Sometimes, due to the debt trap, the land was confiscated by money lenders, and peasants became landless. Hmm. And under Zamindari system, peasants were not given any kind of ownership rights over the land. So they were denied any kind of occupancy rights, and at least till 1859. Hmm. Richard Temple is the one who devised the plan of Mahalwari. Aditya. He was the one who prepared that, or under him it was made. Hmm. And सब कुछ मैंने बताया ना. What about surveys? So surveys are only in theory, but in practice, the surveys were not carried in a scientific manner, or at least as it was prepared, as it was mentioned actually. Hmm. Especially, of course, under Zamindari system, there is no kind of survey. So that's why in East there is no survey was taken place at all. Whereas under Ryotwari and Mahalwari surveys were mentioned, but as compared to Mahalwari, Ryotwari surveys were very much arbitrary in nature or inappropriate in nature, or some most of the cases it was guesswork only, no scientific assessment, right? So in this way, the peasants ultimately got affected. Okay, so we'll see another topic under British economic systems only. Commercialization of agriculture. So, Shashank, what is commercialization of agriculture? They don't have any private right over it. Huh? Use it for money purpose. Okay. Hmm. Which crops? Commercial crops, cash crops. So commercialization of agriculture is more like making the peasants to cultivate commercial crops. So okay. So tell me, so commercial crops means cotton, jute, tobacco, indigo, opium, tea. These are all commercial crops. So first, tell me, what are the factors that led to commercialization of agriculture in India? Hmm? Decades what? Commercialization of agriculture resulted in Deccan rights. But what I'm asking, what are the reasons for commercialization of agriculture? Or what factors contributed to commercialization of agriculture in India? Hmm? Huh? Okay, Industrial Revolution in Europe, very good. I heard like Russian Revolution actually. Yeah. Yes, Kushi, demand from British industries. Okay. बस उतने ही reasons, factors that contributed to commercialization of agriculture. Decline of village self-sufficiency, that is more like impact or factor, Kushi? No, then you can say it in the way like change in the attitude of farmers by shifting from self-sufficiency towards market economy. Kushi, same point. If you want, did you get it? So the decline of village self-sufficiency, like it's sounding like an impact. So if you want to say it as a factor, obviously there is also a changing trend in the mindset of farmers by shifting themselves from self-sufficient economy towards market economy. So that's why they also started to grow commercial crops. So that's a factor. See, factors. First and foremost factor, the establishment of British rule in India. Because before that, we don't have commercialization of agriculture now. So it started particularly in the 19th century after British established their rule in India. And mostly once British rule established, they brought entire India under one rule, that is British rule. So political unity, that also favored commercialization. That means now they can connect every corner of the country. So colonial and imperialistic ideology, because they were driven by what? Company was driven by what? Oh, what's the term? Hmm? You're right. Mercantilism. So if it is wrong, what will happen, Ashu? You hesitating? So at least in my class. Mercantilist interest, mercantilism, profit, maximizing profits by exploiting the other country's resources, simple, or markets. And as Shashank said, uh, expansion of British industries. So simply that is rise of industrial revolution. And so with as industrial revolution occurred in Britain, so there is also a rise of one particular class. What is that class? Merchant class. rise of, so I will also add not only just merchant class, or trading class, because they were the ones who imported these goods from India to England, Britain. So rise of merchant or trading class. Spread of money economy. By the time, particularly from the 18th century, so particularly from 19th century, so money economy got drastically spread. So focus was shifted towards money economy rather than exchange. Got it? So that's like basic factor for commercialization of anything, not just agriculture, but here we're talking about agriculture, so it is also one of the factor. And expansion of international trade, is that facilitated? That is also one of the factor, expansion of international trade. Next, increase in global demand. So not only in Britain, certain products which are also had a great demand in various other foreign countries, isn't it? And like we can cover it under global demand. But once we talk about international trade, we should also talk about how this international trade got facilitated. International trade facilitated commercialization, but how international trade got facilitated? Because of expansion of transport and communications. Expansion of transport and yes or no? Transport and communication, especially shipping and railways, right? Yes, which is saying introduction of new crops, introduction of new crops, and they also forced the farmers to cultivate commercial crops to balance their trade, especially with China. Balance of trade, and we can also say the land revenue policies itself. Land revenue policies also, that also indirectly impacted. Got it? So what are the factors? Establishment of British colonial rule in India, which resulted in political unity. We can also add one more thing here. With political unity, what happened? It also resulted in unified market. That means now entire Indian market was, or economy was, unified. It not separate from each other, because earlier under different kings it was separate from each other, but now it is under single rule. Now the entire market was unified. So establishment of colonial rule in India, so that resulted in political unity, that resulted in unifying the entire market economy. And so the colonial and imperialistic policies and mercantilistic ideology, expansion of industrial revolution in Britain, so which led to increased demand of goods from raw materials from British industries, rise of merchant or trading class, spread of market economy, and expansion of international trade, increase in global demand from different countries. So expansion of transport and communications, especially shipping and railways, introduction of new crops and balance of trade and the land revenue policies. Okay, so these are the various factors that led to commercialization of agriculture in India. So due to this, the crops like the jute, tobacco, cotton, indigo, opium, to cultivate in India. So now, so we have seen what is commercialization of agriculture, what crops were cultivated, forced to cultivate, and what factors contributed to commercialization of agriculture. Now tell me, Happy New Year. I'm waiting for you. इतना डेडिकेशन कैसे? न्यू ईयर न्यू रेजोल्यूशंस. शायद इसको कुछ काम है करोड़ बाग में. हाँ है ना. हाँ आई गेस. Okay, so now tell me, what are the impacts of which decisions? Till 1833, it's the company, because till 1833 they enjoyed what? Monopoly rights. So they have taken after that, but still, but particularly from regulating act, the government used to involve. Still, the company only have taken the decisions, but it was regulated by, because it was supervised by whom? Even commercial matters were also supervised by whom? Earlier by court of directors only, later by court of directors and board of control. Are you getting me? So before 1773, it was completely independent. It was completely independent. Any decision taken by its own and independently. But 1773 onwards, though decisions were taken by it, by the company only, but supervised by court of directors. Okay. And after 1833, so it was no longer a commercial body. So it was completely under the government. And from 1858, there is no company at all. Got it? So it is like in different phases, different types. Got it? What I'm saying? Impacts. Now tell me, impacts of commercialization of agriculture in India. Exploitation of farmers, right? Very good. And Amit, agriculture? Agriculture was disturbed. In what way? Food crops. So food crops got declined, commercial crops were increased. So more land was used for commercial crops. So less land available for food crops. So that resulted in decline in food grain production. Food grain production, the low food grain production resulted in starvation deaths or famines. And Who got benefited from commercialization of agriculture? British traders and planters and merchants. So especially British planters, merchants and traders, because earlier till 1829 the planters were not allowed to purchase land in India. British planters were not allowed to purchase land in India. So what they have to do? They have to force Indian farmers to produce commercial crops. For suppose if we take the example of indigo. Indigo cultivation was predominantly produced in East Bengal. So especially these planters introduced some kind of system like niche system. Okay, and under niche system they made the farmers to enter into contracts. Okay, and in that contracts they have given advances to the farmers. So farmers were taken advances to cultivate indigo. Okay, so and once they cultivate indigo, that was procured by these planters by giving low rates to the farmers. So in such a way, these planters exploited Indian peasants. Okay, so mostly who got benefited? It was British planters and merchants. Next, who else got benefited? So here it was more commercial crops are more or less even farmers also got benefited. Even Indian farmers also benefited. But who got benefited? Large landowners. So large landowners who had enough capital to invest in these commercial crops, so they got benefited. So in such a way, we can say that this commercialization of agriculture has created a kind of inequality among farming community. So rich farmers versus poor farmers. So it led to huge income inequality. And another is because of commercialization of agriculture in India, a particular class also evolved. What is that class? Due to commercialization of agriculture, a particular class evolved in India. What was that class? Money lending class. Because money lenders were there since ancient times. Money lenders were there, but here, particularly under British, money lenders became very much prominent because the government is imposing what? High tax revenues on the peasants. On one side, peasants are facing what? Peasants are facing high tax burden. On other side, the planters are forcing them to cultivate commercial crops. So in this, they need capital. In this, they require capital. So on whom they will rely on capital? Because of tax burden, they have very less incentive to invest for next crop. So due to lack of that capital, they heavily relied on money lenders who lent money to these farmers at high interest rates. So that means ultimately commercialization of agriculture resulted in what? Rise of money lending class. What else? Yes, shift from food crops to cash crops. Yes, that is also like earlier. Traditionally, Indian farming system was subsistence-based agricultural economy. Earlier, with the entry of British and with the beginning of commercialization of agriculture, Indian agriculture got shifted from subsistence-based agriculture to market-based agriculture, right? And moreover, they also started producing those crops which had demand only in the British industries. So, in fact, we can say India was reduced to supplier of raw materials to British industries. Yes, Kushi, this also pushed the peasants into poverty. So, impoverishment of peasants. Yes, rural poverty. Regions that suited cash crops, those regions developed faster. Yes, so those regions are well suited for cash crops. they got developed faster as compared to the other region. In fact, that is also not much developed actually. Another thing is de-urbanization. Another thing is de-urbanization, because see, this commercialization of agriculture and Indian industry was interlinked with each other. Indian industry means what industry I'm talking here? Handicraft industry, because at that time we don't have machine based industries now, so we have handicraft industry. But during this mercantilistic policies of British, what they did, they imported those goods which are nothing but raw materials which are needed for British industries. So over a period of time, after a period of time, they stopped importing finished goods from India. They imported only raw materials from India. So with that raw materials, they have made finished goods, which are machine made goods, which are cheaper, and they dumped those cheaper machine made goods into India. You got it? So it is also linked with commercialization of agriculture only. So ultimately, when they started to dump cheap machine made goods into India, and when they stopped movement of or export of Indian handicraft goods into England, so who got affected? Handicraft industry got affected. So ultimately, when this handicraft industry got affected, many of these families who were earlier dependent on handicraft industry now shifted towards agriculture. That led to what? That overburdened the agriculture, further further increased the rural poverty. Okay, so many of them not even became farmers, but they became landless laborers. Okay. Yes, that is at that point of time, that's not a major factor, but yes, I can take that share. Environmental degradation due to environmental degradation due to uh, monocropping. So that also one of the impacts. Okay. And we can also, as I mentioned, it also affected the self-sufficient village economies, and all of these impacts ultimately resulted in peasant revolts. So what are the impacts? Summarize, Amit. Revolts को last में रखना. Summarize, Sashank. Summarize all the points which I have mentioned so far. Impacts. Declined, destroyed. Shifted from subsistence economy to market economy. Deurbanization, very good. Increased rural poverty. I mentioned just now only, no? 2 minutes pehle. No problem. Write down. Commercialization of agriculture, very important topic. Vinith, what are the plans today? Plans. पढ़ खाना सोना वो तो ठीक है, बट पढ़ना वो भी लास्ट में रखा. खाना पीना सोना, अगर कुछ टाइम बचा है तो पढ़ना है. Yes, Kushi, we should add that actually. Indian agriculture was linked with global economy, and it is also beginning of capitalism in India. Beginning of capitalism. Now, after the Talukdari system, we haven't written any notes, Aditya. I have from half an hour I'm discussing only. Okay. So, did you understand what is commercialization of agriculture? Factors and impacts, right? Right on. Commercialization of agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture refers to a phenomena where agriculture is, put the heading commercialization of agriculture. Aditya, Kushi, and Urija. Commercialization of agriculture refers to a phenomena where agriculture is governed by commercial consideration, that is specialized crops, began to be grown not for consumption in villages, but for sale in national and international markets. Okay. Towards the end of 18th century, revolutionary changes revolutionary changes had occurred in Indian agrarian economy. Okay. Next, commercialization of agriculture. Mostly started after 1813. Mostly started after 1813. 1813. Mostly started after 1813. Once the industrial revolution gained pace, PACE. Okay. Next, it became much prominent in 1860s. Why 1860s? Why 1860s? Yesterday also I have discussed that. Yesterday or day before yesterday I have discussed that. Why it became prominent in 1860s? क्या बोल रहे हैं? तुम आया नहीं, अच्छा तो इसलिए बोलने कुछ बोलने की जरूरत नहीं है. अमेरिकन सिविल वॉर. यस खुशी, वेरी गुड. ठीक है, कल आया था ना विनीत? कल क्लास का कुछ क्वेश्चंस पूछो. नहीं, तुम लॉजिक बता रहे हो ना, तो उस लॉजिक के हिसाब से पूछूंगा. हाँ, कल क्लास का. मैं कर दूंगा तुम्हारा मेमोरी लॉस, ठीक है. एमनेशिया आ जाएगा. एमनेशिया बोलते ना, एमनेशिया. हाँ, टेम्पररी मेमोरी लॉस. हाँ. हाँ. It became much prominent in 1860s during American Civil War. What was the demand during American Civil War? What was the demand? Cotton. Cotton. The commercialization of agriculture was done primarily to feed the British industries. Commercialization of agriculture was done primarily to feed, F-E-E-D, feed the British industries. Feed, F-E-E-D, like supply. For example, there was increased demand. For example, there was increased demand for production of cotton. To supply increased demand for production of cotton to supply a good quality raw cotton, for supply of good raw raw cotton to cotton based textile industries in England. Cotton based textile industries in England. Next, another example, jute was another product that had huge demand in America and Europe. Other cash crops includes next point, next line. Other cash crops includes tobacco, indigo, opium, tea, sugarcane, tea, silk, black pepper, etc. to the heading, side heading. Factors. Factors contributed to or factors facilitated commercialization of agriculture in India. Factors facilitated the commercialization of agriculture in India. Okay, right, point by point. Establishment of colonial rule. Establishment of colonial rule under British in India. Okay, next. Next, political unity. Political unity established by the British. Political unity established by the British resulted in rise of unified national market. Resulted in rise of unified national market. Implementation of colonial and imperialistic ideas, policies. Colonial and imperialistic policies by the British. Okay. Driven by British mercantilistic interests. Driven by British mercantilist interests. Interest, profit maximization. Okay. Next, gaining of speed of industrial revolution in England. Industrial revolution in England led to increased demand for raw materials. Led to increased demand for raw materials. Rise of the merchant and trading class in Europe. Next, spread of money economy. Spread of money economy, which replaced barter exchange. Hi, Mahima. Happy New Year. Increased spread of money economy, which replaced the barter system. Expansion of international trade, increased demand for commercial crops in some of foreign countries, increased demand for commercial crops in other foreign countries. Next, better means of communication and transportation, better means of communication and transportation. Next, replacement of custom and tradition by, I'm adding this point, replacement of custom and tradition by competition and contract, competition and contract. Monetization of land revenue payments, land revenue payments, land revenue payments. Next, balance of trade, with China, balance of trade with China, because earlier when the balance of trade was in favor of China, so to shift the balance towards India, that is British India, so they emphasized more on production of tea in India, because we used to import tea from China. So that means China is exporting tea to India. So balance of trade will be in favor of whom? China. So they wanted to counter that. So how can they counter? That tea which we are importing should be cultivated in India. So that's they emphasized on tea cultivation. It is also a commercial crop only. So that is one of the factor. So along with tea, they also promoted opium also, which exported again to China. And American Civil War, you can also add that also. No, separate. I think I don't need to explain or elaborate on American Civil War. No, we're just mentioning American Civil War, but the story is during American Civil War, what happened? There was a decreased production of cotton in America, so the British merchants started to look for cotton from India, especially from Deccan region. So that boosted the cotton production in Deccan. But once war was ended, they again shifted their focus to America, which affected the Indian farmers, Deccan farmers. So that led to Deccan riots. In which year? 75, 1875. Very good. Okay, simply American Civil War. Next, British policy of one-way free trade. What is this one-way free trade? I explained now, just now. That they only allowed the export of British machine-made goods into India, but restricted the movement of Indian handmade goods into Britain. Just now I have explained now that destroyed Indian handicraft industry. So simply we can put that as one-way free trade. So one-way free trade means this is England, this is India. So this is like goods coming from England to India. This is like goods going from exported from India to England. So on which moment they increase the taxes and on which moment they decrease the taxes? Here they increased the sorry. Here they increased the taxes. Here they decreased the taxes. So obviously now this Indian goods become more costlier, so there will be less demand. Whereas British goods were made less costlier, which there would be more demand. So this is called as one way. So this trade is affected. So this is called one way free trade. Okay, one way British policy of one way free trade. So these are the various factors that facilitated commercialization of agriculture. Okay, impacts. We'll see impacts tomorrow. By tomorrow. Please on New Year, you should take some rest. And a minute.
सर वो ब्लैक डीजे के ब्लैक बॉक्सेस देखे हैं सेफ्टी बॉक्सेस जो डीजे जो ऑडियो सिस्टम होता है उसके ब्लैक बॉक्सेस नहीं होते सेफ्टी बॉक्स
हाँ
वो बनते हैं
जो वो ऊपर ब्लैक कलर वाला हाँ उसमें भी मैग्नेट होता है क्या?
मैग्नेट नहीं होती
मैग्नेट
लॉक्स होते हैं
अच्छा लॉक्स इस जैसे होते हैं
हाँ ये
उसका ट्रांसपेरेंट वाले क्लॉथ भी होते हैं
नहीं वो वुडन में बनते हैं उसके अंदर फॉर्म रहती
है ओके ओके
वो डिपेंड करता है मैच वाली लगवानी है या पूरी रबड़ वाली लगवानी है सामान देते हैं आगे तो लगी है
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dija. Happy New Year.